because I got to spend some time with our friend, and this was last weekend. You guys were privy to that because we were about to go, I guess that night, do the
it was the night of the Angel show,
the Criss Angel show. So you got to get a glimpse of Stephen's house, and they were very gracious, he and his lady Christy, to let me stay there for a couple days because we got our flight. We missed our flight, as we told you guys. We got stuck in Detroit on Saturday night. Sunday morning we came in, switched my ticket to Vegas, came into Stephen's place. We had to rehearse with the band, which the backing band for this event, some of the fans of the show will know, Brent Woods.
Sure.
Of the what Vince Neil fame, right?
Yeah, Vince on Exposed. He played on Exposed.
There you go. And then Robbie Crane was also in that band.
Yeah, Rat and Steven.
Of course, Rat.
Every other band known to man.
So Robbie was there. Brent Fitz was on drums, who I did meet a really long time. I want to say like 20 years ago. I met him in Canada, in Winnipeg, where I think he's from. There's this rowdy place in Winnipeg called the Zoo.
Okay.
And this is a trippy place. It's like pretty run down, a little sketchy. It's a concert venue, a hotel, and a strip bar all in the same building.
Okay.
They call it the Zoo. And anyways, I met him, and he did come up on stage with us back then and played. So it's been a minute. He still looks exactly the same. And his sister Brenda is a musician also. You could see her in this photo that Chris has up. She's next to me. I'm second to the left there. Steven's on the very end there, putting his hand in the air. I'm right next to him. And then next to me is Brenda, and she was the keyboardist for the night. And she really did a great job, by the way. You could tell she was pretty serious about this.
Sure.
But there was a ton of famous people at this thing.
Right.
I should skip to when we finally went down. Well, no, to back up, we had a rehearsal. Let me tell that story first.
Okay, sure.
So Sunday night we get down there. It was at SIR, which is a
famous
rehearsal place. There's one in Hollywood and there's one in Vegas. Apparently, I'm sure there's others on the East Coast too. But it's a top-notch rehearsal place where they have all the best gear for you and everything.
Sure.
And so we got down there, and they were playing with Tammy Down at Faster Pussycat.
Okay.
And they were wrapping up his set. They were just kind of going through the changes. This backup band had a lot of songs to learn. There was like 6 performances, I think, at least 6 singers that they had a backup for this. So they had a lot on their plate. Stephen was nice enough to involve me in this. So for the Stephen Pearcy part of the night, he wanted his guitarist, me, to be there. So I did, of course, accept and went to this and went to the rehearsal. Brent wanted to play a couple of the leads. I was okay with that. He did the lead on Lay It Down, and I think one of the other songs, Body Talk, I believe.
Okay.
And let's see, we did about 6 songs together. These guys needed to move on. We didn't have a very long rehearsal for this.
Sure.
I think we went through the songs one time. It was mostly just to like agree on what the endings were going to be.
Sure.
For this, Robbie knows the songs pretty well, but Brent had to learn them. Both Brents had to learn them. Anyway, so we ripped through that. They asked us if we wanted to go see the Criss Angel magic show that night.
Okay.
Which, but by the way, behind me, that's my backdrop for the night. I don't know if you could see.
Yeah, there he is.
Criss Angel's right with us tonight.
Look at that on your shoulder. Yeah, he's your evil Chris on your shoulder.
The other Chris on my shoulder, right? So I really feel like we should have gone, but I really was exhausted because I was already on the road for a few days at that point, and with missing the flights and all the BS, and thinking I was going home, but then wasn't. My car was still at Wally Park this whole time, by the way.
Okay.
San Diego. But at least my flights got changed so that I could go there, because initially I was going to go home and then have to drive, which was ridiculous, back out there. So this worked out a little better logistically
Sure.
for me. So anyways, rehearsal, stayed over at Stevens. His lady totally took care of us, man. She cooked dinner and breakfast, had some crazy breakfast she made, giant quiche or something like that.
Nice.
It was like next level, you know. So they definitely treated me, you know, like family there. And we just hung out, you know. Pearcy's got a bitchin' pad there in Vegas. It's kind of like, it reminds me of somewhere like Dean Martin would live or something.
Right.
You know, it had that for like, it would have been modern stuff in the 60s.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so kind of like
Madman
fancy
set
looking
list
bar
type thing.
stools at the kitchen bar, and
Right, like the Madman set, more or
yeah,
less. Okay.
more or less. And then of course on the TV's like 24/7 drag racing.
Oh yeah, he's still into that, huh?
It's just the drag racing channel. It's just on as background noise, the revving engines.
No shit.
Yeah. And then him and Christy, you know, they just get along so well. They're like they remind me of like in the Batman, the original Batman series.
Yeah.
When they would have their dance parts where they do their 60s dancing. And,
Yeah, right.
you know, they're like that all the time. You know what I mean? So
Nice.
it's cool to see them, you know, in a good place like that. And so, you know, moving forward, Monday night was the big event. We didn't go to the magic show the night before. We just opted to just go down to this thing, and it was held at House of Blues.
Okay.
This is on a Monday that they held this, which was it was a benefit, really.
Okay.
Criss Angel apparently every year does some kind of birthday benefit show. I was thinking this thing was going to be like thousands of people.
Right.
But no, this was like a small amount of people. This was
I
like,
saw pictures. It looked like there's like 50 people or something. Like
right.
Not a
But
ton of people.
I'm pretty sure these were like 50 heavy hitters. Of
Sure.
sorts.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I realized quickly what this was. This was like his little private birthday party with his family and a couple people, because what he does is raise huge amounts of money for charity.
Right.
Specifically for childhood cancers, which was pretty impressive. I know he has his own charity, Christopher something. I wish I would wrote that down. It's maybe we can find it, but it's like St. Christopher Angel Charities or something. But he also, I know MakeAWish, Southern Nevada was one of them. But this was like, I should set the scene. So this was at House of Blues. Criss Angel's like in the crowd. Okay, he's in like the crowd on the floor, and he's got his sunglasses on, and he's just chilling, and he has his own microphone.
Okay.
During this event. Okay, so he, in between bands, he's like, you know, starts basically kind of emceeing it, and then our other friend of the CMS, Eddie Trunk,
Sir Ed,
is actually the formal host, I guess, of it. He's you know, Eddie's in the wings, and Eddie comes out and does his introductions of the bands, but in between that is Criss Angel actually on the microphone, and he's got his shades on. He's like, oh, this next performer in my youth meant everything to me, you know, and starts, you know, going through. It was pretty cool, actually, you know, because you're like, damn, dude, that's Criss Angel. Like, for anybody who's gone to like Las Vegas, when you get off in the Vegas airport, that's the only guy you see everywhere is Criss Angel.
Right.
Mind Freak and the advertising of his Vegas show. This guy's like big time.
Right.
Okay. So he's there. There's some other famous people I noticed right away. Flavor Flav.
Yeah.
He's hanging out. I'm like, what? Flavor Flav apparently kicked off the event with, as far as the bands go, and he came out and did the 911's a joke.
Yeah.
Get down. 911's a joke in your town. Right. He came out and did that. So he's kicking. He looked great too. You know, I have to say, he
doesn't look like he's aged a year though since 1988.
He did not.
He looks young.
He looked young. I was standing. I got, you know, a couple. I never met him. I didn't say hello to him personally, but he was like right by me.
Right.
But you could tell he was, you know, a huge fan of Criss Angel. You know, he was hugging on him, and oh, Criss, he was, you know,
sure.
You know, all over Criss Angel there. But the musicians, I had to write some of these down because there was like so many people at this thing. Probably the most famous person was Paul Stanley
Sure.
of Kiss fame.
He was on the other side of the room from Eddie Trunk, I assume, right?
Yeah, that was what was kind of weird, because I know that there's some tension between Eddie Trunk and some of these people that were at this thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't remember. I should also mention that Jason Green, who people know is also our tour manager, and he has his Wasting Time with Jason Green show. He met us there. He went to this because he's a Vegas resident himself,
Sure.
and he actually showed up. He'll probably show some clips from this thing as well, but he was there to help, and which I'm glad he was, because we can't find our way out of a paper bag, me and Pearson. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was nice of Jason to like meet us there and guide us to where we had to go, because we were supposed to go to a sound check, and we of course missed that. So I actually had to roll in with my stupid big guitar case and all that crap into the venue. It was goofy. But we went backstage. Robin Xander standing back there.
Okay.
Of Cheap Trick fame.
Nice.
Robin Xander, what a gracious dude this guy is, for being rock royalty, really. You know what I mean? Couldn't have been nicer, you know what I mean? I was standing right by him, and I had my leather gloves on. It was kind of cold in Vegas, and so I go, I'm going to introduce myself, and I said, "Hey, Robin, I'm Stephen's guitarist, Erik. How you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, hey,
nice
monster." And I'm like, ah. I think he meant like a good guitarist or whatever.
Right.
But anyways, it was super cool. It was so nice. You know what I mean?
Did he know it was you, or did he think you were Warren DeMartini?
With Warren DeMartini with cancer? No. No, he didn't think I was Warren DeMartini. But anyways, that was super cool. And later he would end up being probably the best performance of the night. I have to say, and you could tell the band put in the most effort for him too, as far as like learning the songs, because and his were probably the most intricate songs of the night, and had the most background vocals and all that. But moving down the list, we had our buddy Sebastian Bach. Dude,
hey, mother truckers, I'm here.
Right. So Sebastian was lurking around. I talked to him for a little bit. I decided, I was actually telling Christy and Stephen how the 18 in Life video that Skid Row has, they actually filmed that in San Diego.
Okay.
Which is my hometown. And they filmed it at the San Diego Sports Arena. And I was there. It was when they opened for Bon Jovi.
Okay.
And they were coming up quick and hard, Skid Row, at that point, and they were making the video for 18 in Life. I remember they played it twice that night.
Okay.
And they ended up really only using like a quick amount of footage, by the way. Like, we were awaited this video to come out thinking that the crowd was going to be all through it, but actually just shows it at the very, very end for like a second, like the last 3 seconds. But that's San Diego Sports Arena. I'm in the crowd. So Christy goes, you should tell him that story. And I'm like, shit, he's probably just gonna go, yeah, you and 5,000 other people.
Or he'll be like, yeah, cool story, bro, cool story, and then move right on, not even pay attention.
Right. So anyways, he comes lurking back there, and he was actually being pretty chill, I have to say. He was chilled down, Sebastian. You think he was on his good behavior for the night, maybe? But he came in, I basically just told him the story I told you guys, and he pretty much said the same thing. He goes, yeah, man, a lot of people feel that way, dude. Or
Sebastian.
But
he's a trip, man. He really is.
He is.
He's being around. I've been around him a couple of times. He is no different away from the camera than in front of it, is he? He is the same kind of weird, wild guy pretty much all the time.
Right. But he is Sebastian is a huge fan of these, early 80s dudes, and he was, being nice to Steve. They're friends anyway. Steven and him have been friends forever, but he was like, oh, dude, when I watch the Wanted Man video, I get goosebumps, dude. The Western outfits, ugh. Or whatever he was saying, I don't know.
Right.
But it was funny. But he was being nice to me. I've actually got to play in a similar situation probably a decade ago. Got to play for a bunch of singers one night, Dee Snider and
Okay.
Lita Ford, and she was there too, Lita Ford this
Sure.
night. But I got to play with Sebastian and do 6 Skid Row songs.
Okay.
It was kind of bittersweet because the backing band that night was awful,
Right.
and it just ruined it for me, and actually this was probably the time that Brent Woods actually got the gig
Right.
with Sebastian, because there was about this time that he was looking for somebody, and I was like, knew I was going to be playing this thing, and I was like, oh, you never know, maybe I'll pick up a few extra gigs with Sebastian.
Well,
But it ended up Brent Woods obviously got the gig, and he does a great job with Sebastian. He's been playing with them shirtless now for quite some time. But anyways, on this night, the band had their poop together, and
Right.
Robbie Crane's one of the most solid musicians out there, and they did a great job just learning all these tunes. But let's see who else do we have. Oh, at some point in the night, talk about old school Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett was at this thing, huh?
Tony freaking Bennett. Tie a yellow ribbon around the old
that's
oak tree.
Tony Orlando.
Oh wait, no, why did I say Tony Bennett? That is who I mean though.
Tony Orlando?
Why the hell did I write down Bennett? I'm such a goof.
I was gonna say Tony Bennett's like,
thank you. That's who I meant.
Dean Martin era.
I meant to say Tony Orlando. I'm just a goofball. Don't listen to me. I meant to say Tony Orlando.
I'm not
Tony
gonna lie.
Orlando.
Ain't gonna lie. I thought he was dead.
Honestly, he's got to be like 82 years old.
I gotta look him up now.
But you know what? And honestly, I didn't get to see him from the front. Like there was at some point, Criss Angel had passed him the mic, and he was basically, addressing the audience and telling them, how much he respects Criss Angel and how good his charity is, and how basically they need to dig deep and save these kids.
He was a master salesman, right?
Well, it was sincere, you know what I mean? From a old school Vegas guy, he was just kind of letting everybody know, as if they didn't know Criss Angel's very legit anyway. But he's got such a successful show out there. I
would have guessed he's older than he is. I just looked him up. Tony Orlando is a whopping 78 only.
Oh, okay. Well, he looked 82. No,
I was going to say I would have thought he was in his 90s. And I'm not even trying to be funny or stupid or nothing. I really would have thought he was 90 years old.
Again, it's a situation where I look at Tony Orlando and he looks like he's weighing in about 400 pounds at this thing. There you go. He was bigger than that. He's like, the guy I saw the other night was like at least 3 of those guys.
The guy from the other night ate that guy.
Yeah, and I was just looking at him from behind. So, but you heard the voice, very distinct voice he has, and then they did an impromptu tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree, and Robbie Cameron just trying to come in on the bass a little bit to kind of back it up. I don't think he was initially gonna perform, but then they. Tie a ribbon round the old oak tree.
Does he dance or does he just stand there?
Oh, I think he was just standing there. And I'm just kind of peeking around because I don't know, the whole thing, I was a little on edge. One of the songs I had to Round and Round on the double lead part, Brent wanted to play the part I usually play. So I had to learn the other part, which we were talking about muscle memory or whatever.
Sure.
Like you're used to playing it one way. You got to really focus to undo that and learn the other thing. So I was kind of a little uncomfortable about that. I had actually spent all morning practicing it, you know what I mean? To make sure I didn't, screw it up. So I was kind of awaiting this big moment where I was going to have to do this other version of the solo. But I just hung out with Stephen and Christy in this backstage room. So I was just kind of listening. They had a TV where we could watch the bands that were playing. Tammy came on. They had done the Faster Pussycat. They did a Faster Pussycat set. Kip Winger was at this.
Just by himself?
He actually performed with the guys, with the backup band. It had been a minute. I haven't seen Kip since we did this VH1 acoustic
strip thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I told you how they would like mess with me at this thing, you know, back on that strip thing. They would they were accusing me of being gay and like, you know, making crank phone calls to me, and like
Right.
I would get a call in like the middle of the night, like, "Hey, I heard you're into water sports," like weird shit. Or you know, Don Dawkins' bunk was like right above mine, and I could hear them, and they would go, "Hey man, oh, what I catch you doing there?" They were like talking to each other, and knowing I'd be listening, and they're like, "Oh wow, look at your dick, man. It's fat and stubby." And then the other goes, "Yeah." And Don's like, "Yeah, and yours is long," and you know, whatever. I don't know what the hell there was. It was. I just was like, ah!
You were like, I do not want to know this.
I know. I'm pretty sure though that they were just effing with me. You know what I mean? They knew I was up there. But,
maybe.
I haven't seen this guy since then, and I just kind of. We were in this small room together, and he's standing there, and he's kind of getting his 12-string ready, his acoustic guitar, and he looked over at me, and I just gave him like a, "Hey man," you know. I didn't even go over and shake his hand, but he knew who I was, I think, and we just kind of laughed to each other. And whatever, he went and did his thing, which he, you know, Kip's always pretty great performer for the most part.
Still sounds excellent. I mean, still sounds like he did in 1980, whatever.
Most of the time, I'd agree with that. This night,
not so much, huh?
This night he wasn't like exactly spot on, but the band played really good. There was another guitar player that didn't play during the Stevens set, but he was there for some of the other stuff, and I feel bad I didn't write his name down, but I think was in the Sin City Sinners for a minute.
Okay.
Jason Green was telling me a little bit about him, and I think actually might have even played with Kip Winger at some point, so he knew those solos, because the Winger stuff on guitar is no joke, man.
Right.
You know, and this guy was able to do pretty much nail the stuff on there. So
who was it? Cool. Was it Rowan Robertson, or
no? It wasn't Rowan. And I'll sit here forever trying to. Stoner me is not going to remember this guy's name.
If I can find the members. It says Scott Griffin, Muscat, Jizzy, Scott Coogan, and Rowan are the members.
Oh, they were at some point. It's changed. They're Sin City Sinners.
Mike
line,
Zuder?
They don't even do that. They don't even do that thing anymore, I don't think.
Okay, yeah.
But let's see. We covered Flavor Flav. Who else we got? Sebastian Bach. Yeah, pretty much. I think I ran down. There was a couple of other people I didn't recognize names. I think they were actually like part of Circus Soleil or whatever. They were like ventriloquists and some other people from the magic world that had something to do. But definitely the highlight of the night was Robin Xander. Like, this dude throws down.
Oh yeah.
Still. Okay. Mm-hmm. His son was there. His son was playing guitar. You know, and I gotta give Brent Woods, you know, credit too, because this was more like, I consider Brent to be a real rock guitar player anyway, but he had a great tone going, and he nailed all this Cheap Trick stuff,
right?
You know, and Brent Fitz and his sister were on point too. Like, she had all the there's a lot of background vocals in that Cheap Trick stuff.
Okay.
And they sounded amazing. The performance for this was so cool. And so what I'm building up to is I didn't expect this to happen, but I was kind of on the side of the stage watching this stuff. And when Surrender came on, they wanted everybody to come out on stage. So that's, you know, I was kind of pushed out there, and I had been like eating hors d'oeuvres and stuff in the back. So I don't even know what my breath smelled like at this point. But I went out, and the mic closest to me had like Kip Winger, and I don't know who this other dude walking around was there. I did not recognize him, but that guy was there. And I kind of was like trying to politely not get too close, because again, I wasn't sure if I had, you know, cheese whiz breath or whatever.
Your mama's all right.
Yeah, like, your boobs, you just got bad breath. But you know, it's funny. I had remembered Frankie, you know, our beloved Pearcy guitar player we had forever. I remember him telling me once that on that acoustic tour that I was talking about earlier, that Kip had come out on stage and had terrible breath once.
Okay.
Like he came out, his breath stuck like he just ate like a tuna sandwich or something.
Oh.
And Frankie was dying. He was telling me that story. So I didn't feel too bad. I go, well, I know he's had some fucked up breath at some point too. So whatever.
Right.
I'm like, so your mama's all right. I didn't care anymore. You know what I mean? I just started- and he like looked over at me too. He looked like, who is that? So, oh, you. And he kind of like backed up a little.
Nice.
Yeah. But it was kind of cool to be up there, you know, doing that, you know, singing that anthem.
Yeah. And dude, you sang with Robin Xander. That doesn't
I
suck.
can say that now. Fuck you. I totally sang with him. Right?
Dude,
when that song comes on, which it did, I was like Christmas shopping the other day and like we in Walmart or some shit, and the song came on.
You sang with Robin Xander. You sang with Tony Orlando, Stephen Pearcy. You've been a fucking.
Dude, I'm living the dream.
You are. You are a total rock star. You just didn't know.
Yeah, I just didn't stop to realize it, to smell the rock or the roses or whatever. But you know, our performance went all right. You know, we pretty much got through that. There was a couple ending little things, but that I don't think the people noticed that. The big round around thing I did nail.
Okay.
So
star.
Yeah, I didn't and there was a little bit of pressure with that, you know, just because there was some stuff I'm not going to go into too much with Brent Woods, because there was a minute there before Monaco came in where we were considering a few guitar players, and
right. Okay.
you know, he had just come in and was like making a couple of goofy demands off the top that was like, you know, and so I wasn't sure what to think about. But after the rehearsal and, you know, playing with him, he actually is a cool dude, and obviously he's been around forever. He's highly respected.
Sure.
And honestly, you know, people overuse the, oh, it was such an honor to do this or that, but it really was an honor.
Oh yeah.
To be asked to be there, you know what I mean? And I'll always remember that night, you know. One thing I'll throw in before we change gears or whatever was how much money was raised. This is where it got a little interesting, you know, because at the end of the night, you know, he brings everybody out. I found out the kids that were walking around, because you see some kids in that photo. I don't know if you want to pull that photo up
again. I can put it back up.
But the youngins that you see in the front are actually Sebastian's kids there too. You see, but they brought us all out at that point, and he starts talking about the cancer, the kids with cancer, and just you know, money for
heal every life possible. That's what I looked it up. That's what it's called. Heal every life possible.
Okay. Yes, and he is very passionate about this. You could tell how serious he is about this. You know, I guess they were like, okay, great. You know, we raised you know, $200,000 tonight, and tell you what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna pull $1 million out of my pocket.
Oh, wow.
Right? Oh yeah.
Nice.
As you pull $1 million. Presto, changeo. I'm gonna turn your $200,000 into $1.2 million.
Wow, look at that.
Alakazam.
You're like, why don't you pull another 500 out of that other pocket and give it to me, pal?
And the other guys, you know, Sebastian in particular was like, just like, what the fuck, dude? You know, he's like, share some of that money, man. You know, it's like he's getting all out. And at first I thought that maybe, I didn't know who Criss Angel's wife. I thought maybe it turned out that it was Sebastian's wife was in the wings, or his lady was in the wings, and I thought that was Criss. I'm like, man, you should shut up, probably, you know. But anyway, but I realized that was and he does have adorable kids that are kind of running around. One of them I had to shut down. He's like, hey, I had my guitar sitting backstage. He's like, hey, can I take your whammy bar and go meow 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 meow?
You're like, no.
I'm like, I'd prefer if you didn't.
Yeah,
you know, and knock it all out of tune before I have to go out there.
Somehow I don't see Sebastian as being like the high disciplinarian in his home.
I didn't even know they were his kids. That's about what kind of disciplinarian he was there. I thought it was Criss. I go, these must be Criss Angel's kids where they're running around.
Right.
And but no, I think they were Sebastian's. So yeah, that was the end of the night. You know, I think he even pulled out more money than that. Like wow. By the end of the thing, you know, $2 million was being raised for this Southern Nevada for these kids. And I you know, I guess Make-A-Wish Foundation in general, you know, grants like 25 wishes a year, and like 7 of them are made possible by Criss Angel.
Okay, that's cool.
Put that in a perspective. So this is something he does every year. So if you go to Criss Angel's website. You can read more about it. And if it's, something this year you want to get a tax write-off or something like that, I'm sure you can make still time to do a donation for 2022.
Yeah, I got the link on the bottom of the page scrolling right now. So if people want to read about it and donate, it is there. I looked it up while you were telling the story. So
way to be on it, my friend.
I got to help out. Got to help out the charity, dude. I'm all about the charities, man. I do, obviously to a much less important level than this, but I tend to do charity stuff a lot. Good. I tend to do a website every year or so for free. I've done autism, I've done several different autistic things, and I did a brain cancer website for a company once, and there's a company out there for depression called Common Ground that I donate. I donate proceeds from my books every year too, just because, and it's the dumbest thing ever, but because I never even worked with this company, I'm not really a depressed guy or anything, but when I was looking up a charity, because I wanted to do something with the books, especially the burn book. I looked up doing like Phoenix Society and stuff, which is for burn Vicks, and I just didn't like what I was reading. But then I read about this Common Ground, and the thing that was cool about them was that they had a thing on their website that if you're depressed and you're fucked up, but you don't want to call somebody, which I can see, like I've been depressed at points in my life, and the last thing in the world I want to do is pick up the phone. Yeah. Hey, I'm having problems. Can you talk me through it? Sometimes you just don't want to do that shit. Well, they had a texting thing, which I thought was pretty cool. This was like 7-8 years ago, before texting was, like all you did. And they were like the first one I ever came across that had texting for people that were going through depression. And I was like, oh, I'm going to donate to that, because that's fucking worthy. That's actually something I could potentially see myself doing, just being in a shit mood and just texting these people. So I threw some money at them, but charity's good, dude. I don't care what anybody says. I know a lot of people will look at like a Criss Angel, especially somebody that's famous anyway, and look at them doing charity stuff and say, oh, they're just doing it for attention or whatever. It's like, you know what? Even if they are good, who cares? If Criss Angel's doing this for attention, he still put $1.2 million into this cancer foundation, I believe it is, to help kids with cancer.
Let's look at it this way. That's $1.2 million the government ain't getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if he didn't care, he would have just paid his taxes and that would have been that. But he goes, you know what? Fuck the government. Let's give it to these kids with cancer. No, he never said that, by the way.
No, I know, but I mean, some of these, but I mean, these guys are definitely passionate about giving back. A lot of them that have been given everything. Criss Angel, good example. He's gotten every break known to man, which is why he's, him or Blaine now are like the top 1 and 2 magicians in the world. And, I mean, different guy, but obviously he's had every break in the world. He's made zillions of dollars. When my kid was going through cancer treatment at the hospital, what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? The guitar player for The Who.
Pete Townsend?
The other one. Roger Daltrey, the singer.
Okay, well, that's the singer, sir.
That's the singer. But well, I'll tell you why I'm thinking guitar. Roger Daltrey came to the hospital. He wasn't in town. It's not like he was playing a gig. He literally was just flying around the country, stopping at different cancer centers to visit cancer patients. Right. And he was donating guitars signed by him at every hospital that he stopped at. He stopped at the hospital my son was having treatment at. Right. Treatment with. So, so I just thought that was very cool. Yeah. I mean, this guy's in The Who, for God's sakes. The last thing in the world he has to worry about is donating time. But he did, because he's passionate about it. So, sure. So I just thought that was very cool. And a lot of these guys, they do cool stuff like this because they sort of understand that they've been given great breaks, and at least they honor the responsibility of being gifted such a fascinating life.
Yeah, let's pause right there, because I mean, for one, they don't have an excuse not to, in my opinion. But the rest of us, like me, for example, like I've gone 50 years not giving a shit about anybody but myself. You know what I mean? And I feel guilty about it, to be honest. I'm no joke. I really do.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, I really gotta like change that about myself. You know what I mean? I have resolutions, if you will.
Well, it's New
And
Year's.
one of them's being a little less selfish and helping other people and making time for other people. And so I hope on our show we do focus on some cool charities and raise some money.
Of course.
And let people know about our show, Criss Akin Presents. We're trying to, we're a brand new show, but we're closing in on 1,000 viewers. That's kind of a key thing, so we can start, doing stuff and raising money.
Yeah, and charity is great, dude. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a self-help show, but I've done it forever, man. I mean, all the way back to like right after 9/11, I donated time, I donated money. I went around to various fire stations and just fucking, they all were doing the boot thing at the time. I don't know if you remember that.
Right? Yeah, you put a donation in a fireman's boot.
I went to every fire station around town and just threw a 20 into them, and I didn't have it. I mean, I really didn't have a lot of money, but I was like, I felt like I needed to be part of that. And and you would be amazed how cool you feel about when you do stupid shit like that. Like,
right.
I'll give you an example, and it's something I really don't talk about a whole bunch, but whatever, it's Christmas time. I didn't this year just because I haven't really been out, but pretty much every year there's a grocery store in a neighboring town near me. And usually it's outside of it, there's like homeless people that hang out at the store. And for 10, 11 years or so, I won't just go and give them money, but I'll take them in the store. I'll take them in the store and I'll buy them, $100 worth of groceries or something.
And then they go, "Hey man, can we go back in and get some beers?" And they want even more. No, I'm kidding. Go on.
I've had a couple of times where they didn't want to go in the store. I've had a couple of times where I rolled up and they were like, "Hey man, can you help me out with $10 or whatever?" And I'll be like, "Well, what do you need it for?" And they're like, "I got to get some food for my family or whatever." I'm like, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take you in the store. I'll take you in the store and I'll buy you, whatever it is you need."
Oh.
And I've had a couple of people say, no, they just want the money. I'm like, well, all right, well, then go fuck yourself. But
exactly,
and that's the way I honestly feel. It's like, you know what? I'm trying to be charitable here, but I'm not going to get ripped off either. I'm not going to give you $20 and then fucking drive by an hour later.
These people more than likely have some sort of EBT card or something. That
they could.
Of course they do.
But I'm willing if they're willing to go in the store with me, I'm willing to throw them $100.
And you're a sweetheart for doing that.
Well, I just feel better about myself. Dude, I've been given a lot of breaks. I've worked for all my breaks, but I feel like, I've had a cool existence where I get to do pretty much whatever I want to do. And I work from home watching TV, for fuck's sake, and I have for 20 years. I say it all the time. I feel like I've been on vacation for 18 years. 18 years of vacation. I don't have to do anything. And I like to, pay the karma jar, so to speak, so that I don't have to do something in the 19th year.
No, it is important, man. You gotta show some gratitude to the universe and pay it forward and all that good stuff.
Let me throw a couple of quick comments up here. That is very cool. Well, thank you, Jimmy. Van, Chris's son had cancer. Yes. What was that? 5 years. I think he just hit his 5-year mark.
Awesome.
Or 2 days from now, he hits his 5-year mark. 28th, December 28th. It'll be 5 years that my son has been cancer free, which is is a milestone. They say after the 5-year, you're pretty much good for a while. So hopefully it stays that way. But we went through it, and there's actually, as dumb as this sounds, there's some funny CMS stuff with that as well, because there was one time while he was really sick, I was still doing the CMS, and I had to rush him to the hospital. He had something go wrong, and I had to rush him to the hospital. So I took him to the hospital, but I still kept doing the CMS, but from my phone in my car.
Oh. That's dedication, folks.
Instead of sitting in the waiting room where I would have just been sitting because they weren't going to let me back anyway, I sat in my car and did the CMS, and my son texted me when I had to come in. And I literally interviewed the goofiest thing. Me and Neely interviewed one of the
somebody with a hatchet wound in their head.
No, one of the original Metallica guys, like Lloyd Grant. We interviewed like Lloyd Grant, and I was doing.
I got my Metallica shirt on.
There you go. Yeah.
And justice for all, or so we can only hope.
Yeah. But how crazy is that? I'm doing an interview with an original member of Metallica from my car while my kid is having cancer treatment.
Crash course in brain surgery.
Yeah, really. Crash course in cancer treatment. Jesus Christ. And then Scott Casey. Well, thank you, Scott. That is the nicest thing. Look at that shit. Akin is a legend out here on the West Coast. Okay.
Got it.
Oh. Sorry, Van. I was telling my story. It's not my son. It's Criss Angel's son that has cancer. All right. Sorry.
He did. Well, both
sorry, I took credit for that.
Well, they did. And he did talk about that. I mean, he had a young, son there, and thank God he's doing okay. It is horrific, man. That stuff shouldn't happen to kids, man.
Dude, I've said it a million times, since my kid went through it. My kid going through cancer was a million times harder for me than when I went through the burn accident. A million times harder.
Wow.
Because at least with the burn accident, it's me. And I can handle anything that comes at me. Right. You watching your kid and you're fucking helpless. Man, there's no worse feeling in the world than that. It is just horrifically difficult. So, I respect Criss Angel to death for, using his celebrity to help other people. And I'm sure he's given back because those people, I'm sure he went through it. I got all the money in the world and I can't do dick to help my kid, and that's that is an ugly, ugly place to be.
Well, and then, Make-A-Wish. I mean, Make-A-Wish, that one of his charities gives to. I don't think those kids even make it out, of that.
Yeah,
I mean, those are terminal. Those are terminal kids that want one last wish, and Criss Angel gives them the last thing that they wanted, which is heartbreaking. But I think these guys, it's not uncommon that when you hit a certain iconic level of fame, you wonder why you and not all these other billions of people on the planet.
Sure.
What makes you so special? And you're not that special. In some cases, Criss is obviously amazing, magician, but there's most people I've always felt in rock music, they're cool and everything, but there's nobody like untouchable in rock music. You know what I mean? It's not it's a work of man's music. Nobody should act too high and mighty about their rock skills.
That's it.
But there's rock guys that have made huge amounts of money. I know one guy comes to mind because I remember seeing on the Behind the Music, Jonathan Cain.
Oh yeah.
He goes around to children's hospitals and he gets choked up talking about it, but he probably needs to do that just to like keep a balance,
Sure. No, he probably does. And although these days he better worry about making some money because apparently they're broke. So
again,
that's what I keep reading is the journey is.
What do you think on that? I mean, since it's just us shooting the crap, do you think? Because I've heard different things. Each guy, Neil Sean is kind of throwing shade at Jonathan Cain, and vice versa. Who was using the company card first? Neil Sean comes out guns blazing, saying it's Jonathan Cain's embezzling all this money. And then you come to find out, no, Neil Sean's the one who can't remember all the money he spent. So what have you heard?
How am I going to tap dance around this?
Oh, okay. Is this?
Let me say. No. It's fine. I can talk about some of it. Let me just say. Okay. I'm going to explain why I can't talk about this fully.
Okay, fair enough.
I definitely have a friend that is all the way into this camp, not on the peripheral, not like in the middle of this camp.
Oy.
Like a relative. So I do know exactly what is going on. And exactly what is going on is unbelievably horrific.
Ooh.
Here's what I'll do. I'll answer to what has been reported.
Okay.
What has been reported is more correct on the Jonathan Cain side than on the Neil side.
Okay.
From what I know. Now, I'm not on the inside, but I'm hearing
And that
from other
kind of
people.
makes sense.
From other people, what I'm hearing is that Neil has an army of cars and divorces and
beat off videos.
Yeah, and just everything that would be expensive. And
he knows how to get down.
Well, he knows how to get down.
The
other thing, and since this has been reported, I can comment on this. It was reported, and rightly reported, that one of the big problems Journey has is they can't play Live Nation venues because
that's all of them, isn't it?
It's a lot of them, but it's because Neil sued Live Nation twice. There was a situation, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a situation a few years ago where Live Nation threw his wife or his girlfriend or something out.
Okay. Yeah.
And she said that they roughed her up, and he sued and lost.
All right.
But they didn't forget that he sued.
Yeah.
And now they don't want to book Journey.
There's something else like that too, just this week, where I saw, it might have been on Reddit or something, where some woman was not allowed into a Live Nation show because her company was suing the parent company of Live Nation, and they did a facial recognition and went, oh no, bitch, you can't come in here.
Yeah, it was, they did the facial rec and recognized her and said, nope, you can't come in.
This should be a big wake-up call to people, by the way. You know how not far away we are from, you talk some shit about Live Nation and all of a sudden you're not getting let in the Metallica concert.
Yeah. Well, and they have the right to do that. I mean, it does say, the right to refuse anybody for any reason. Yeah, it was some attorney. It wasn't. That's what it was. The girl, she wasn't an attorney. She worked for an attorney that was suing that, like Live Nation or somebody.
Yeah, like how did they? It's freaky that they would even know that and detect that.
Yeah, well,
it's scary as hell.
If you're suing for 7, 8, 9 figures, I'm sure they make sure that they know everybody on the roster, so that you're not not sending spies in to gather intel on them or something.
Yeah, but just, I mean, going to a concert that's, Live Nation, I don't know how big the show was that this lawyer or paralegal or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy story, but man, can you imagine? Can you imagine being kicked out because you wanted to take your kid to see Taylor Swift or some shit?
Well, they already did this, not to go back into the dreary vaccine bullshit, but they already showed you how that can go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You didn't submit. Oh, you can't go to the store. You can't buy food.
Yeah, well, it is what it is, man. We're in a weird time. I'm happy I'm almost dead, because then I won't have to live through all this horse shit that's coming. But
I feel that way too. Like I've already recently accepted that I ain't gonna live to be a really old guy. I don't know if you feel that way too.
Oh, I'm not, dude. When I got fried, my doctor told me 55. He said, if you get to 55, be happy. I just turned 54. So,
man.
So I'm like, do I think I'm going to die in the next year? No, not necessarily. But
when's your birthday?
October 27th.
Okay. I'm going to put this out there now, but I think I got to come out for your birthday, dude.
Come out as gay?
No, maybe.
Yeah, it might be the last one. You might need to.
No, like come out and just rage in person and
works for me.
Do the show in person. I don't know. Do the show from Pinball PA. I don't know.
Dude, now that I want to do. That I do want to do. Do it from Pinball PA. And by then we'll have the brewery in there too.
So really? You think by your birthday the brewery's going to be in there?
I think by next month the brewery's going to be in there. So.
Oh shit. Well, I think for your birthday, dude, since you might not live to see another birthday after that, we should definitely throw down. I have so many. I'm going to have miles to use.
All right.
You know what I mean? So I'll get myself out there if you can pick me up.
Hell yeah. Hell, I offered to drive down to pick you up when you were fucking half dead. Why wouldn't I pick you up from the airport?
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. We're partying for Chris's birthday.
Sounds like
in Ohio, is it?
In Ohio. Yes, sir.
Ohio.
That's right.
As I like to call it.
And as you should, because there's a lot of hoes here. Well, speaking of hoes, we will talk about hoes here in a couple of minutes, because I came across some TV that just absolutely horrified me. And it's not like what you think. It's not Pornhub. It's actual reality people that I just was like, what in the fuck is going on with this bullshit? But let's take a quick break. God, we did an hour and 20 minutes. All right, let's do a quick break, play a couple of spots here, and then we will come back and we will do some more right here on Criss Akin Presents.